One day I was looking through my freezer, looking for inspiration of what I could quickly cook for dinner, and I spotted a piece of flank steak I had left over from a family pack I bought earlier. So I left it on the counter to thaw, but it didn't thaw quickly enough for me. So I decided to just slice it up and throw it into a stir fry. The last time I went to the grocery store, I picked up a whole bunch of scallions and limes, so I knew I could easily whip up a steak and scallion stir fry. Let me tell you, it was the best idea ever, and the coolest part of the steak being partially frozen was that it was actually easier to slice up. So if you're looking for fast food that's super fresh, then grab your scallions and I'll show you how to make it. This is a whole lot of scallions, right? It's like a little bouquet. But trust me, you're gonna need this many. But what else you're gonna need for this easy steak and scallion stir fry is flank steak, garlic, scallions, mini bell peppers, water, oyster sauce, limes, salt, cornstarch, and red pepper flakes. Look at this beauty. This is about 1.5 pounds of flank steak. You can get anything between 1.5 to 2 pounds of flank steak. And if you actually look closely, you can see the grain, the lines going down this flank steak. And so what you want to do to slice it up, this makes all the difference. So really pay attention. Since the grain is going this way, you want to go against the grain. This also goes the same for when you cook the flank steak whole and then you slice it up after. You still want to slice it this way. If you can actually see, I'm angling my knife too. It's going at a slant. It's not just going straight, it's slanting. And cut your flank steak into 1/2-inch pieces. And this is why it actually works kind of better when the steak is partially frozen. So if you want to, and your steak isn't frozen, you can actually pop it into the freezer for about 15-20 minutes until it gets more firm. But the key is that if it is partially frozen, after you slice it, then make sure that it thaws completely and then you blot it dry, because you want a nice sear, but it won't sear if it's wet. Now, you notice that these are pretty long in the center, right? So do yourself a favor and then cut the larger slices in half, so that you'll end up with roughly 3 to 4 inch pieces in length, 1/2 inch in thickness. Gonna put this on a paper towel lined plate just to catch any extra moisture, and I'm gonna pat it dry before we put it in the pan. Okay, I'm just gonna wash my hands and finish chopping my scallions. I have two whole bunches of scallions that were washed, and now I'm just trimming the ends, the little hair. And you know sometimes scallions have that little like waxy layer on top? If you want to, you can peel that off because it's harder to chew. This might seem like a lot of scallions, but it shrinks down when it cooks. And when you cook it, it turns sweet, almost like caramelized onions. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting the whites and the green parts separate because we're gonna cook them at separate times. You're just gonna cut them into about 2-inch pieces. And the same thing goes for the green parts. You know, the green parts always take quicker to cook, so we're cooking them later on, and then the white parts get thrown in earlier. And now I happen to have mini bell peppers because when I went to the store, they were just there at the front of the store. So I just grabbed a bag, and I love them because they're so cute and plump and sweet. So I'm just gonna slice up enough till I have about a cup. You could do more. And if you don't have these little baby peppers, then don't sweat it. You could totally use a regular bell pepper. I just like the colors. I think it's a great contrast to the green. And these are not spicy at all, but you could totally add some jalapeno or spicy peppers if that's what you want to. This is about good. I mean, it's a full cup, but that's good.
Dum dum ba dum ba dum dum ba dum ba dum dum ba dum ba dum dum ba dum.
I have 3/4 of a cup of water in a measuring cup, and this is going to be my little vessel that I throw the sauce together in. You know, I'm not a big fan of just buying ingredients that you're not going to use a lot, but with oyster sauce, it has this natural savory and sweet flavor to it, and I think if you make a lot of stir fries or even fried rice, it comes very practical. So I would actually suggest investing even in a small bottle of it to keep in your fridge. So I have 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce that I already measured out, and you're gonna add that to your water. Look how glossy and thick that is. And to that, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice. But if you don't have fresh lime juice, you can use lemon juice or even vinegar. Ooh, nice and juicy. A 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. If you're using fine salt, use about 1/4 teaspoon and then add more later after you taste the sauce. Crushed red pepper flakes. I think this adds a nice heat to it without making it too blaringly hot. So a 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, again, or more if you like things spicy, less if you don't like spicy. And the last ingredient, this is the glue, quote unquote, to hold things together, a tablespoon of cornstarch. This is just a thickening agent that you have to dissolve while liquid is cold. That's the key. And then you bring it up to a bubble. All you have to do is whisk it up until the cornstarch is dissolved in the liquid, but it does tend to settle, so right before you add it to the pan, whisk it again. Clear out of my way, people. This part is gonna go kind of fast. Okay guys, so when the pan is screaming hot with some regular neutral tasting oil, like canola oil or vegetable oil, you're gonna grab your dried off beef, just pat it dry, make sure there's no moisture on it, and you're gonna saute it in about 2 or 3 batches, whatever it takes to allow browning without steaming. You overcrowd a pan and it'll steam instead of searing. That's the sound. Gonna add some salt and pepper so that the meat has flavor in itself. A little too aggressive with my pepper shaker. I'm gonna just kind of give it a smush down so that it really develops a sear and brown color. And we're only gonna saute each batch, maybe a total of about 2 minutes. For me, the first side always gets the most attention and then the second side gets about 30 seconds. That's the way I'd like to do things. Okay, it's a little pink still, but it's brown, so I'm just gonna dump it onto my plate and move on to my next batch. The steak is gonna cook a little more when in the sauce, so don't worry about it being completely cooked through. You wanna err on the side of it being undercooked rather than overcooked, because there's no going back from that. The thing about flank steak is that it used to be a very cheap cut of meat, but it's kind of getting expensive these days. So buy it when it's on sale or buy it when you see it in a family pack, like I did, and then just keep it wrapped individually in the freezer. But flank steak, when cooked quickly, is a very tender cut of meat. A little bit more oil. And you see all these beautiful brown bits from the meat? That is golden. So what we're gonna do is add your scallion whites in, as well as 4 cloves of minced garlic, which I already minced in advance. All of the scallions and the garlic together, it's so fragrant. Makes you salivate. Now I'm gonna add my cup of peppers. This is the thing I love about stir fries. They just make me happy. They're so colorful. Stir fries are my go-to thing whenever I'm in a rush. I stir fry everything. Stir fry and fried rice, I would say. Just don't let your garlic burn. Now, you're gonna whisk that sauce up again because of that cornstarch that probably settled by now. Throw that in. You hear that sizzle? And then see what I'm doing with my rubber spatula? You can use a wooden spoon too. Just scrape up all the brown bits that are collected on the bottom from the meat, and that becomes part of your flavor base too. Cornstarch gets activated when it comes to a boil, and then it's gonna get a little bit rich and silky. So grab your beef with all of those pan juices. Don't throw that out. Look at that. That's like pure gravy. And then your scallion greens, the tops, these just cook in an instant. And then all you have to do is literally just soften the greens and give the beef a toss in that glazy sauce, and you're done. Guys, that's it. So just gonna scoop up some rice and eat it. And there you go. Let's go for it. That is a perfect combination. The meat is so tender, but it has a good bite to it because you could tell you're eating steak. The scallions become as sweet as leeks. The bell peppers add the perfect little crunch and sweet bite. It's fast, flavorful, fresh. I guarantee this will be a crowd pleaser. How about some suggestions? If you don't have flank steak, then you can use skirt steak or even sirloin steak. Feel free to add any vegetables you want. Snow peas, broccoli instead of peppers. I just like the pop of the orange and the red in there mixed with the greenness of the scallions. And if you don't feel like serving it with rice, then you could always eat it with some quinoa if you want to keep it light. This is the perfect way to eat steak when you're in a hurry or even when you're not in a hurry. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, remember to push like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I would say something at this point, but my mouth is too full of steak. And it's so good, juicy. I don't feel like sharing with anybody.